Welcome back to the Fundamentals Podcast, where we talk all things related to sports. Happy Monday. I just wanted to come on here and recap the weekend a little bit. We had I was gonna get on Friday and talk about the Thursday night game, which was a really good game. It was a big game. Being a Rams fan, I am very happy for Raheem Morris. Um, as the head coach of Atlanta now. I miss him as our defensive guy in Los Angeles for many reasons. If you've been watching the Rams, you would know why. But that's a story for another day. That was a really good game. Atlanta seems to be getting it put together. It's coming along. It's a young nucleus, but it seems to be coming together pretty good. Tampa played a hell of a game too. That game could have went either way. One of the big things, man, always talk about, man, put some respect on Mike Evans' name, man, because he is solid. He's a solid wide receiver, and he's gonna give you a high number of touchdowns every year. There's a reason why his numbers look the way they do. He just doesn't get mentioned as a top tier wide receiver, and I don't understand why. You got to put some respect on that guy's name. But yeah, that was a great game. Great Thursday night game. Probably one of the better Thursday night games that I've seen in recent history. Going to Saturday, everybody knows Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. That was the first time Vanderbilt's beat a top 10 AP team. In close to 40 years, it seems like. I want to say maybe 1985, something like that. It's been a long time. So, yeah, that was a big deal, man. And the question that I had immediately after, with Georgia having the loss to Alabama and Alabama having lost to Vanderbilt, who's going to be number one? Are they going to put Texas back, or are they going to try to get Ohio State in there? And I say try to get because I've always said that I feel like they're always trying to get Ohio State to be number one. I don't know what it is. I think that comes from something in the '90s where I felt like it was always the Big Ten schools that were like highly praised. So I don't know. It could be in my own mind, but regardless of the fact, Texas should be number one in my opinion. And so, we see what the rankings look like. Um, Going to the NFL, and I'm going to get a little bit into some NBA too. But going to the NFL, we had some upsets. Or are they actually upsets? Is Arizona beating San Francisco actually an upset? Um, with this season, the way it's been, I don't really know about any upsets because so many games have been so close. So many teams that we didn't think were even middle of the road teams are superseding what our expectations were. I was dead wrong on Minnesota. I was partly wrong in New Orleans. The season is still early, but New Orleans has showed more than what I expected. Tampa has showed more than what I expected. I called Atlanta being a dark horse based on roster and what was coming to the table in terms of coaching. And Minnesota, I counted them out. Chicago seems to be figuring out. I'm still not sold on Caleb Williams, and it's not a knock on him. Like I don't want him to not succeed. I don't want him to fail. But I'm still not sold. Because partly there's a couple of those games his defense has bailed him out. Um, but yeah, man, like it's been a super interesting season, but I've liked it. Although my team is not doing great, we've battled a lot of injuries. I've liked this season because every week you just never know. Like I didn't have Denver beating the Raiders like that, the Las Vegas Raiders, the way they did yesterday. And when you go back and look, we felt like, Aaron Rodgers comes back and it's just going to be on for the Jets. And I feel like they haven't quite figured that out. I feel like they has had one game where they kind of figured it out, and then they took a couple steps back. Minnesota is really good. They're just The thing with Minnesota is they're just so well balanced. And so that's what makes them a hard team because they're good defensively and they don't make mistakes offensively. And that is what makes them such a good team. Um, Jacksonville, they got their first win yesterday against the Colts. That's a big, they needed that because I felt like Doug Peterson was on the hot seat. And depending on how the rest of this year goes, he might not have a job. And I think my big issue, I was actually watching that game yesterday. I kind of flipped through all of them. I was watching that game and um, I felt like Trevor Lawrence gets these breaks and they say, well, he can do these things. He just needs to learn to do them. And it's like, it's been 4 years now. Like, how long are you going to give him? Like, at what point do you say maybe he can't learn these things? Why does he get excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse? Yes, they beat, the Indianapolis Colts yesterday, but I'm still not sold that he's the guy. He definitely is not worth the money that they paid him. Some may ask, well, who would you put in his place? Who was going to be better? That's a fair question, and I don't know the answer to that off rip. That's something I would have to think about. But that's what your counter argument generally is when that statement is put out there. Um, another game. I'm going to get to the Baltimore Cincinnati game. There was another game that was really interesting. The Buffalo and Houston Texans game. That game was really close. That game was another one that probably could have went either way. No, it really could have went either way. I think I think Buffalo is going through what they need to go through early. If you're a fan of Buffalo, I don't think I'd be concerned. I think they're figuring out some kinks. They started out really strong. They're figuring out some kinks in the armor, and I think they will get it fixed. And they have a division that's favorable for them. So you have that. What's another game? What's another game? One more game. New York, the Giants. The Giants against Seattle Seahawks. That's a big win for the Giants. That's impressive. I think I don't know. Is Daniel Jones getting it figured out? And they did that without Malik Neighbors. I don't want to speak too soon, but the Giants might be onto something. They might have something figured out. Seattle's no pushover, regardless of what you think. Don't sleep on Seattle. Now we're going to get to the Cincinnati and Baltimore Ravens game. That was a really good game. I was super impressed with both teams offensively. Now the issue is defensively. Cincinnati did a great job stopping the run throughout the game to the end when we saw Derrick Henry have a big burst. But throughout the game, Cincinnati did good stopping the run. But the pass, they still can't stop it. The last 3 years, Cincinnati, their issue has been on the defensive end. I feel like Cincinnati is just, I feel like they've kind of been getting some bad breaks this year too. Not only is on their defense, but just they've just it just the puzzle piece kind of fits, but there's a notch that's just kind of keeping it from locking in. So, what does Burrow have to do? Also yesterday showed you why you should pay Jamar Chase. Like, if you thought he shouldn't have been paid before yesterday, go back and look at it if you didn't. That's why he should be paid. Overall, that was a great game. That really, who knows if that kick would have been made by Cincinnati if the snap hadn't been bobbled and fumbled. Who knows? But at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson had a solid game. I know he had a couple of oopsies, the one turnover, but the first one where he fumbled, where he dropped the ball and picked it back up and was able to get off the defender and throw it in the back of the end zone. Hey, that's why he's him. I'm look. I've been a defender of Lamar Jackson because he's a super talent. He's so good. I feel like people just want a gun for his head. I don't know why. It's not fair because he is a super good talent. Like, I get it. They talk about the playoffs. He hasn't made it to the big game. That's not all on him, man. That's not all on him. I know how it works. If the team loses, it's the quarterback's fault. The team wins, it's the quarterback. The quarterback that helped them win. But that's not all on him, man. I think we gotta. I think a lot of people have to cut Lamar Jackson some slack, and I think it comes from the outside world of Baltimore fans. Though I don't think it's Baltimore fans. I think they understand. I think it's just the people on the outside of the spectrum of that who don't understand how good Lamar Jackson is. But yeah, man, that was a great game, fantastic game. I enjoyed it. It was fun to watch. Yeah, it made my little sports heart happy to just see a good game. Either way, whoever would have won that game, I would have been happy with just a good game. It was just a matchup that I was looking forward to, and I enjoyed watching it. The Sunday night game. All right, Dallas and Pittsburgh. Yes, I am referred to as a Dallas Cowboy hater. That is not new. Everybody knows that. Um, I mean, yep, Dallas like barely won. It was kind of subpar game, like it wasn't that exciting, but it was all right. I think the fun part for me was Snoop coming out and representing Pittsburgh, like representing the Pittsburgh Steelers because he's a fan of them. A true fan, always has been. If you follow Snoop, then you know that. I think that was real fun. That made it exciting. But other than that, I mean, I could. It was cool. It was something to, it was all right Sunday night game. I mean, it came down to the end, so I guess it was cool. The big thing I want to talk about, we have preseason basketball. The NBA is in full effect, and whenever the 22nd is, I believe that's 13 days. The 22nd, the season pops off. I've been critical of LeBron his whole career, and is it completely fair? No, because a lot of it is in fun, right? Do I think LeBron James is a terrible player? No. Do I think that you know he's not a great player. He's one of the all-time greats. Yes. He's not in my top 5. I'm sorry. He's just not in my top 5. I can't make him be in my top 5. He's just not. He's just not in my top 5. Sorry. But he's a phenomenal player. But what I'm here to talk about is Bronny. And when the draft happened and we talked about it on the show and me and Adrian spoke about it, we spoke about, the nepotism, but not in a negative way because, you know, I think the idea that even if you say Bronny got that simply because LeBron James is his father, okay, but there had to be some hard work on Bronny's part, right? There was something that showed for it to even be thought about, right? I just want to say that seeing them on the court last night together was something that was huge in my opinion. Like seeing it, like I was critical about a lot of things, but seeing that was like a huge thing. Um, and actually, I'm a little bit more excited to see where Bronny's career goes. I wish the best for him. I want him to succeed, and I don't care. I don't care if he's a six man. One of them players that's a career bench player that gets time here and time there. But I want to see him hold his own, even when his father is not in the league. And I mean that in a positive way. Like I hope that happens. Like I really want that to happen. Um, And I'm happy for LeBron. Like as a father, that is a huge deal. That's a huge thing for him, I'm sure. Like I can't imagine that because I'm not a professional athlete. Not even close to. But I would like to think that at his level of success, that is one of the greater feelings that he has ever had. Him lacing up his shoes on an NBA court alongside his son. And with that said, I just would like to see big things, and I think this could be a fun thing. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Laker fan. Like it's just something that I hope works out. I hope it does well, and I'm excited for the NBA season to kick off, and that like just seeing that yesterday really it pumped me up a little bit, like just because it's just one of those heartfelt moment kind of deals. You know what I mean? As a fan of sports, as a somebody that advocates for you know for great sportsmanship and enjoying the sport as an entertainment entity, I guess you could say. I don't know what word I'm looking for. I'll say entity. It's fun to see that. That's why I watch sports because it's fun. We joke on here, we laugh, we have a lot of fun with different teams and give different players a hard time. But at the end of the day, it's all fun and games and it's entertainment and it's sports and these players go out and risk injury and they're away from their families, and we could say, well, they make tons of money to do that, and they do, right? But at the end of the day, they're also it's a pastime for us. It's entertainment for us. So I think we need to appreciate moments like that. So that's all I got, man. I just wanted to jump on real quick, give my take on the weekend and talk about that, man. But I think I'll have another. Well, I think we'll have another episode coming out this week. I hope so. We'll see. I'm gonna try my best, but either way, that's what I got for today. Thank you for joining the Fundamentals Podcast. Peace.